Hey, check it out. The dead horse is finally dead. 1 million hours later, and I have the pile of bearings that I need to re-bearing a new limited slip Ford 9.75-inch differential, so I can finally get back to putting this rear end together on this 05 F-150. What do you know? It's not gonna be living on the rack for eternity. Yay! Hello everybody, good day to you. Clearly you understand what we're doing right now because I just told you with a slight tidbit of sarcasm and a little bit of bitterness to go along with it. But we're ready to hit the ground running. I've got all the parts here, so I'm going to make haste and get some action done on this truck because I need this thing out of here. Everything in the building is coming out today because I got a whole ginormous parking lot full of stuff that needs to come in. And a lot of it needs to come in like right now, like that Lotus and that CTSV, and that Cobra's got to come in. Parts are here for the Cobra too. Some of the parts are here. Been waiting on that stuff for eternity land. That one suffers from an overheat condition. We're going to add a supplemental high performance electric radiator to it. I'm going to put in a known good thermostat, get the thing running. I'm going to set the engine timing so it starts and runs and cranks and drives like it should. Once we get through that, I should have the rebuilt rear end here at the building. The issue is I believe that the rear end inside of this 77 Corvette chassis that this Cobra kit car is sitting on, I believe somebody has taken this rear end apart and welded the gears together to create a full-time straight axle, which is not okay. So what we ended up doing was ordering a rebuilt differential housing with limited slip clutches in it. That way we still get posi action out of both wheels, yet it'll continue to make turns like it should. Because that car with its weight class with a welded axle is a oversteered, lost of traction, kind of, I'll call it a death trap. It's not good. There's way too much torque, way too much power, and not enough correct traction. And what I mean by limited slip, we've got a spider geared rear end here, and you see down inside of there, there's all those clutches. Well, when we experience a wheel spin event on one side of this differential, what it will do is when that wheel spin event occurs, it's going to put pressure on these side bearings. They're going to push away from the spider gears, engaging on those clutches, creating friction, and then locking that in until we've achieved the proper amount of traction. So a very similar rear end as to what is going back in this F-150 is also going to be going in that Cobra. Having said all that, I'm done jaw jacking. I need to get this thing to work, so I'm going to drag the press out. We're going to press new side bearings onto this carrier here, swap over the ring gear from the old unit to the new one, and then we will get these outer axle bearings driven in. We will install this differential, get it lined up, and get the clearances properly set. Then we can throw this thing back together, get it out of the building. So that's what we're doing today. Stay tuned. This is going to be a very good video. Okay, so we're here in front of the press. First thing I need to do here is get the new differential carrier in position. We're going to go ahead and press on the side bearings right now. Once these side bearings are on, we'll go over to the old differential and remove the ring gear and get that transferred over onto this carrier. So I've got a new set of gears here, or bearings rather. What I need to do, get this guy centered up, and we will get the appropriate dies. I guess I'll call it a die. We'll put a socket on this and press it down with the hydraulic jack just above us right here in the press. Okie doke, so I've got a fairly large 2 1/16 of an inch socket here, and that socket is going to fit on the inner diameter of this bearing race without contacting the roller bearings or the outside cage. So that's the area we need to press on to press this bearing over this section of the shaft on the carrier. So we get her lined up there, get that socket in position, and up here, we'll run the jack down. Don't do that. We'll run the jack down so it makes contact, and then press this, this bearing into its new home where it will remain for eternity. we go. Got the jack bar in hand. Let's go ahead and send this guy down some. Oh, there she goes. As long as we're moving, we're in good shape. If it stops abruptly, some dirt in there. If it stops abruptly, then we know that the socket has hit the carrier, and we'll have to like reorganize and repress, but I think we're good. It's bottomed out. And visually it looks like we're bottomed out with the side of the carrier, so that's in good shape. Let's run it up. Looking beautiful, that one's good. So let's flip it over and repeat procedure. I'm wondering, need to make sure that the bearing cage does not take the load of the press. So as long as we're sitting on the end of this little protrusion in the carrier, we should be good, and I think that's all right. It looks like it's not touching the cage, so I'll go with that. So, put that next one in. Get our socket in place. Visually aligned. And we have contact right here. There we go. Are we bottomed out? Yepper. Looks really good in there. You see that? Nice and bottomed out. Good to go. So, let's get this thing off the press and we'll get that ring gear swapped over. Okie doke. So, in order to remove this ring gear, which drives on the pinion off the back of the drive shaft, we have to remove these 12 bolts around the perimeter here. So, I believe those are going to be a 19. I just looked up the spec, and torque spec on this is 110 foot-pounds of torque. We're gonna get to that later.
Either not torque speeding me, or it's the thread lock getting to me.
Okay, that's all the bolts. What I'm gonna do is we're gonna put 2 back in so I can drive the ring gear off of the carrier. Gives me something to whack on. It is a Lotus. See that? So we're starting to get some gap right here. So what I'll do is pull these threads out some, since we know that gap is taking place. Start to come apart. We'll back the threads out to get more thread space. Just tap it down some more. Now, I'm noticing something kind of not okay. See this little ring right here? This is the pickup ring for the wheel speed sensor in the differential. And the astute amongst you would have noticed that the other differential carrier that I have over there does not have that ring. Now, I was assuming that this ring was part of the tone ring here, was part of that ring gear, and it's not. So I either have to transfer this over, or I happen to have the wrong differential, which would really be a problem. Well, there's really going to be only one way to find out if this ring comes off of this carrier, And the survey says it does. So let's pay attention to the orientation. It goes like so. So the ring gear and the tone ring is off. Let's pull the carrier out of here. That's done for. We're finished with that. So now I need to wipe this down and get all this stuff cleaned. I think I'm gonna dunk it in the nasty caustic tank of a carburetor cleaner, engine cleaning, decarbonization business over there. Get all the dirt and whatnot off of it, especially in the threads. And then while that's dunking, we'll try to get this thing pressed onto the new diff carrier. Okay, so what I'm gonna do here, we're gonna take a wire coat hanger.
No wire hanger!
The everyday, normal, in the shop wire hanger comes from Cintas. These are fantastic for those little odd jobs. I'm gonna take this guy and I'm gonna run it through and just loop this ring gear. That way, when I dunk it into the dip of death, I can easily retrieve it without getting my hands in the toxicity. Make sense? It does to me. Ow! All right. Get that dunked down in there. Give that a minute to clean up. So for the fasteners here, Dave made me this really cool basket out of some parts washer pieces and more wire hanger. So what we do is throw those guys right in the basket, and then we can dip the bolts. Oh no, it's going down. Sink. There we go. Just dip that right down in there. Come back for you in a minute. So in the meantime, I want to get that tone ring onto this differential. So this was the proper orientation, if memory serves. And it doesn't really matter where these are referenced. There's no timing involved here, but you can't really tap that down over the front side. It came off downwards, so I'm gonna give it a flip. Yeah, there's a lip right here. See that little lip? That's gonna be the stop for this guy. So what we gotta do is flip that and then send it down like so. That's how that's gonna go. Okay. I'm gonna go down as far as it will go, and then once I have the actual ring gear installed, we'll try to run it back this direction to seat it flush. I think that's the appropriate way. I've never had to transfer one of these tone rings over before. This is a new one. Doing it wrong. Okay, that's looking good. This gear is sticking down past the flat surface for the ring gear. Give that a good wipe. All right, looking good. Alrighty, so while we wait for that stuff to clean up, I'm gonna take these replacement bearings. We're gonna tap these guys in. Again, I'm not hitting the rollers. We're just banging on the outside here with a rubber dead well. When this goes in and gets straight, we'll get a little bit more aggressive with it with an actual metal hammer. That's about right. Okay, so I got the big boy out. Now I didn't choose this hammer because it's heavy. It's just got a large contact face, and that's why. But same idea. We're at an angle here so as to not strike the bearings. Just gonna walk it in. So see how we're flush with the axle tube now? Can't hammer on it anymore because I'm just gonna hit the axle. So what we do, take the old bearing and then use that as the driver. Do the same thing. Walk it around. is moving. You hear the change in tone? That means that bearing race in there has bottomed out. Okie doke, so bearing is in. Let's give it one more wipe. Now we can take the seal and drive the seal in place as well. There's our seal. See how it's not been returned? Let's tap this thing in. Same way. Going around the circumference. Tap in until this lip right here bottoms out on the axle tube. And that's that. She's in. Let's go in for the close-up. Make sure we have no gap anywhere. That looks good. No gap on this side, even though you can't see. There you go. All right, beautiful. The other side, I will repeat the same procedure, but you guys don't need to wash it twice. So let me get that one knocked in, and then we will come over and pull that stuff out of the dip, get it reinstalled on the diff, and then get the diff, gravity, get the diff back into the housing. Okay, back to the dunk tank of death. Let's pull this nasty business out. Ew. And look at that. This chemical started pulling the paint off of this dip tray that I have here. You see that? It's pulling it right out. Ooh. Give that a shake down a little bit. Kind of a rinse. Stay. Okay. Let's say that's good. Let's pull out the ring gear, see what that's looking like. Ah, much more better. Nice and shiny. Beautiful. Let's get you up here. We can spray it off with some brake clean and get her super clean like. Let's lose our wire hanger. Oh man, I ruined it, you guys. I completely forgot. There. Now all is well in the world. Kinda. Hose that guy down nice and shiny like. Oh, gorgeous. But the problem is I'm out of brake clean just in another! All right, enough screwing around. Let's take our nice and shiny, cleaned up / semi-reconditioned ring gear and bring it over to diff. We'll get this thing ready to rock and roll. So what I'm gonna do, I'll use my finger here as a reference to that hole, and we're just gonna slide her on down like so, and I'll run the bolts up from the bottom side. So here's how we're gonna do this here. What I'll do is take one of the bolts, run it through, and we'll get it started on the ring gear side. That way it can't fall off. See that? So we got one of them. You can't see, my hand's in the way. Got one bolt threaded in. We'll rotate this unit around. Take another bolt. Stick it through the hole, thread it in. Like that, like so. Then, take the whole assembly, flip it over, and put the rest of the bolts in. Roll, there we go. See, now the ring gear can't fall off because I've got a couple fasteners set up into it. So what I shall do, we're gonna take all the remaining fasteners. I'm gonna throw some thread lock on them. And I do realize there is thread lock on these. I don't have a tap to chase them, but we can live with it. We're gonna drop some thread lock in on each fastener. Then we're gonna go through and run them down with a little impact. Then we'll bring them up to more torque with a larger impact. I believe spec on this is 110 foot-pounds of torque. So we'll torque stick it with a 100-pound stick on the gun. Then afterwards, when it's installed, we'll hit it with a wrench. There we go. Okay, so this thing has been tightened down. It's now flush. See that right there? So what I'm gonna do is we're gonna switch out to a larger gun and utilize this 110 foot-pound torque stick. This is a torque limiting stick. Basically, it's a linear spring. So when your gun provides torque to this unit here, this is gonna twist up. And as it twists, it is going to reduce the available amount of torque to the socket and the fastener, limiting how tight you can make said fastener utilizing this particular tool. They're either loved or hated. They've got their uses. I think that in corporate policy land, they're overdone and they're used incorrectly, but I get their purpose. Anyway, set this guy up. We're good. Okay, this thing's ready to rock and roll. So I need to dig out the bearing races and the shims for the differential. We'll get this guy back in position. Hot. All right, coming in. Heavy. So we've got the carrier right here. Bearings are on it, and we can see the races that go with our bearings. We have to keep those over the bearings while we slide this guy in. That in there. What are we doing here? Okay, so if you guys recall, when we took this thing apart, there's some shims that are supposed to slide in here to space this thing correctly. Now, I'm using all the factory shims. We're gonna set it up with all the factory stuff first, and then if I've got to pull it apart and re-shim it, we will do such things. Next unit coming in. Let's see how we have that set up. Ooh, a little tighter than the other one was. That's a good sign. I need a hammer. I'm scared to walk away. 1 second. Woo. Okay, back. All right, let's take a breather for a second and do some reassessing. So we're at a pretty tight squeeze here. I'm actually gonna try to yank this guy back out, pry bar. I wanna put the shims in first and then slide the bearings and their races in with the shims already in place. Yeah, this is the thing about like rear ends. You might end up going in 2, 3, 4, 5, a bunch of times just to get it kind of set up the way you want. So here, I'll push the shims in first. All the way back. I don't think preload is going to be an issue on these carrier bearings. It feels like dead on perfect. Alrighty, so caps are in, sort of. They're threaded, just barely started. What I'm going to do, slowly tighten these down, and we're going to draw that in the rest of like the 5% of the way. I've got it mostly in there all the way flush. We just want to give it a little extra. See it move? Gravity. Get a little warm in here. I still see a gap right there, so it's not in yet. See the whole assembly moving in? That's those bearings lining up. Oh, I've got the wrong size socket here. Should be running at 18, not a 19. Here, let's switch it out. Or not. Wrong replacement, wrong socket. So maybe 19, not 21. I don't know, I didn't even look. I just grabbed the next one. Okay, those are run down. They're not tight. But let's see how well this guy moves. It spins, it's free. There's no binding taking place. No weird noises. Good, so let's pull these caps back out and visually inspect everything. Make sure we're lined up and looking good. Real nice looking. Everything's flush. Nice, good. Let's put that guy back together. Let's check the other side. Okie doke, so the magical number on the clicky wrench here is 77 foot-pounds of torque. Wrench is set. $77, good. Let's get those other two on this side here. $77, right on the money. So now let's kind of final inspect everything and make sure that everybody's meshing correctly, because we did change pinion bearings, so there's potential that we changed pinion depth and clearances with the gear and backlash. But from what we saw with the installation, I think preload is right on the money. It felt pretty good. I wasn't bashing it in with a hammer, but it did get tapped in, but that all feels good. You guys hear that lash in there? Look at that, almost no lash. See it? That's good mesh on those gears. Give it a turn. Everybody's moving. I need to throw some paint on these little gears right here. Check the wear marks and the relationship between the two, and should be ready to rock and roll. Okay, so this is a little packet of paint that goes in here. What we do is squirt it on the ground. We paint this paint all over the teeth and then run this thing around with some pressure on it so that the pinion gear scrapes away some of the teeth. And that's gonna give me a visual representation with regards to the relationship between the two gear surfaces. Now, I'm not gonna harp on this pretty bad. I'm gonna paint it on, we're gonna spin it around and check it. And if I think it looks good, we're gonna walk away and get the rest of this assembled. I don't wanna harp on this gear paint business too much. I'm of the opinion right now that this thing is set up perfect. But I also know that if I skip this part and move on, you guys are gonna rip my face off in the comment section. You're probably gonna rip my face off in the comment section anyway, but I'm trying to mitigate such disasters. So I'm going through this, we're gonna do it fast. There's minimal rhyme or reason or explanation to it. I just wanna make sure that it's all correct. So what we gotta do is reach around, give it the reach around treatment to the pinion, and rotate this. And I'm gonna hang on to the ring gear or the carrier and keep as much friction or resistance as I can as the pinion passes over those teeth. Now, right here we're in the moving forward zone, and I'll do one more pass in reverse. So let's see, how did that gear pattern look? That's what we're looking at right there. See that? See how at the pinion gear, when it made contact with the paint, it wore away some of the paint. That's fantastic. It's a little heavy on the outer lip here, but I'm not taking this all back apart to pull 15 thousandths or 8 thousandths out of the pinion depth. Actually, I can't do that because the pinion is sunk all the way back as far as possible. So with that pinion all the way back, that should be encouraging this pattern to be this way, not so much this way. So I believe if I want to separate, get that pattern away from this outer edge, I need to move the carrier over a few thou. But we're not gonna do that either. I'm letting it ride, that's how it's gonna be. So let me know if that's right to your eyes in the comment section down below. I realize I'm gonna get my face ripped off because I do that every time I set up a rear end, but it is what it is. So now that we've gone through that formality, let's go ahead and disassemble this carrier some. We have to get the big pin out of it to make room for the axles coming in. So we need to pull out the set screw, and then we'll drop the big pin out and then stick the axles back in to the housing assembly. Okay, it's pin removal time. So we've got to pull out a little set screw guy right here. That's a 3/8 drive. Standard size is SAE. So this pin is here to capture this pin right here. See that little guy? So what I'll do, I'm gonna reach around here, push that pin out. You gonna come out or what? No, it's not. Okay. So let's flip this whole unit around and pull it out this way. There we go. Yeah, so on the other side, when you screw this thing in, it'll capture this big pin and prevent it from coming out. But we need to remove it in order to install our axle tubes. So we're gonna carefully rotate this around without the pin. If this were an open differential, not a limited slip, these spider gears in here would be rotating. And if you rotate the housing with your pinion, you rotate that housing, those guys will rotate out and they'll fall out, and it's a real bear to put them back in because there's little bearings, like little flat bearings behind them. Regardless, that's not the scenario here. So what you do next is grab the axles, give them a wipe down, shove them in both sides, and then clip them in the differential. Okie doke, so I need to pop into the grease bin here real quick. Get a little dab of that nasty.
Hi, Ray.
See you, brother. Thank you, sir. And we're gonna come in here and just put some grease on this seal for good measure. You don't really have to do it, but it's not gonna hurt. I'm not going to put grease on those actual bearings in there. I have learned from the YouTube channel Bendin' with Bendin'. He's like a heavy duty truck guy. He doesn't know I'm giving him the shout out real quick, but I've learned that when they re-bearing the front hubs on the semi trucks that are it's like a wet bearing or whatever, you use gear oil on it. Folks used to pack those with grease, and he says, no, do not do that, because the grease and the gear oil like don't mix well or whatever, and it shortens the life of the bearings. So due to a heavy duty semi truck YouTube channel, I have learned to not lubricate those bearings inside excessively with axle grease. So anyway, so I got the seals greased up. The axles themselves been wiped down, so we need to take those axles, get them in the tubes all the way down, then they're gonna pop out right here and we can set the clips up. Alrighty, axle shaft coming in. Stick that guy in, slide it all the way down the tube, and it's gonna pop out on the other side through the spider gears in the diff. There she is, sticking out. So now, what we do, come in here with the little C-clip, stick that guy inside of that groove. See that right there? And once that guy's in position, we'll take a little pry bar here and push that in. So, do you see how the clip is now missing? It resides inside this little recessed area. See that right there? So once it's in position and that axle is pressed all the way back, it cannot come out. The clip can't come out and the axle can't come out. So let's grab that other axle here, shove that one in, and then we'll clip that second one. Axle coming up in the hole. Okay, so let the splines line up, push it in. Give it a couple lug taps to bottom out. There we go. So now, come back around over here. And I think it's gonna go, how'd I have that? This way. Stick that guy in like so. More angular pry bar. Booyah. So with both axles in and then spread back out either direction, you can put the big pin back in position. And this is the side it didn't come out of, right? Uh-oh. Let's try to spin it back around. Getting paint all over me. It's so humid the paint won't dry. That's something, isn't it? Let's try. Are we lining up? Yep. There we go. So now we'll take our 3/8 socket again. There's already thread lock on those threads. 3/8. Applying torque. Clicks. Beautiful. Yeah, let's hose this down a little bit with some brake clean. Get rid of all that paint. It can stay, but it can also leave. Should I stay or should I go now? Goodbye, yellow paint. I think you should go now. You know what I forgot to do? I forgot to try and tap this ring gear in so it's flush against the pinion. Remember I said I was going to do that and I didn't do it? I should probably do it. We'll soak up the remainder, just get it out of there. That whole bottom trough is full of brake clean. We don't want to mix brake clean with our differential oil. It's a great way to ruin some nice Amsoil. Alrighty, so we've got all the brake clean dabbed out of here. A little bit of paint left over, but it can stay. Got the cover here, it's cleaned up. And I've got a nice bead of sealant around our cover. So we're gonna get this guy back over the rear end. Quick check, torque, gone through and torqued all these bolts. Oh, you know what I didn't do? I didn't do the thing I said I was gonna do. Try to hammer this guy back over. I forgot again. It's not okay. Let's see what she does here. Yep, it moved. turn the pinion some. Rotate. Got the drive shaft hooked up, so a little bit more resistance. By the way, if you hit this with a regular hammer, you break off these teeth, you've ruined it. The pickup sensor will not detect a proper signal with the teeth broken off. I think that's gravy. I like it a lot. Okay, now that we got that ring seated flush against the ring gear, that critical step that I was omitting the whole time, we can get the cover back on. Ooh, dust. A piece of dust fell in there. Get that out of there. Okay, so I got some sealant on it. Let's get this guy in position here. One smooth point of contact. Stick it right on there. I'm gonna throw a couple bolts in it so it stays put. We don't want the sealant smearing around. There we go. Put the ID tag back on. It says 75-140. That's just to let you know what oil goes in it. Since we took the tag off, I'm going to put the tag back on. Let's get all our bolts in. Uh-oh, I'm short one. There's the one. It's in the drain. Found it. Tag turned. See that? Okay, if the tag turned again, I don't care. It's staying there. Now you can't miss it. Ding. Click. Multi-clicks. These are all tight. We're good. Good. Nice. All right, so now got to grab some oil, fill this thing with I think it's 3 quarts up to the fill line, and then we'll throw the tires back on and we're good to go here. We'll recheck our work, fire this thing up, put it in gear, spin the assembly around, make sure it's quiet, and we can go drive it. All right, let's move on around to the other side here. We'll go into the front of the differential where the fill plug is located. You got some light? No. It's aluminum. No. Oh, that's as much light as we get, guys. Sorry. It's just how it's going to be. Oh, there's some light. Cool. So we're going to fill that up. 75-140 Amsoil, formulated for use with limited slip differentials. Yeah, see, it says so. Says so right there, using standard and limited slip differentials and blah blah blah, including manual transmission. So I'm utilizing the bags in the rather than the bottles, because the bags you can squeeze it all and get every last drop of that goodness into your gear cases. Fill it on up. Oh yeah, beautiful. Okay, 2 more of these guys and we should be all set. Okay, second bag, same cap. That way I don't have to cut more than one cap. Stick it in there, squeeze it out. This is quart number 2. And we're basically gonna fill this until it runs out of the top of the fill hole. I think I already said that, but in case I didn't, I'm saying it again. You can see the drive shaft is back in. Did that when you weren't looking. There we go, number 2. Third unit. And I believe we are full. Yepper. That's the last of it. Yep, she's full. Yep, see right there? Totally full. So now, put the plug back in. Wipe off our driblets. I'm gonna lower it down, throw the wheels on. And then we're gonna check that noise one more time. You better shut up. If I did all this work for nothing, I'll be super upset. Give it a good wipe. That way there's no driblets dripping. And it is time. Let's let this unit down. Getting out of the hole here. Okay, so these lug nuts came with this socket to not mar them, I guess, and it's a low profile type of socket. So we're just gonna run these down to 3/8 and then we'll torque wrench them once she's on the ground. Very good. All right, let me get the other side, then we're gonna go back in and fire this thing up. Okay, wheels are on. The rear end's been lubricated quite extensively. That thing came off uneventfully. Lock release, coming down. All the way down. And contact. Beautiful. All right, let's climb on up into this unit here. Got the battery reconnected. Where's that key at? Beginning engine starting sequence now. All right, she's alive. She's running. Let's throw it in gear real fast. We'll raise it back up and then re-inspect down below and listen for any noises. Throw it in drive. Foot off the brake. Oh yeah, she's rolling. Got some speedo action. 18 miles per hour on the speedometer. Let's run this thing back up in the air for a closer inspection. All right, while we're headed up, here's one more shot of the before. You can definitely hear it. A lot of noise through here. I hear a lot of it in the actual drive shaft itself. It's like the shaft is amplifying the vibration noise. Pretty loud through here. Feel some vibrations. And here comes the after. Awesome. I'm so excited right now, guys. Although my monotoned, sarcasm-laden voice may not display it, I'm thrilled here. All right, let's get on in for our close-up. Super quiet. Look at that shaft. The only thing I hear is brake pads wisping. There is no noise whatsoever coming out of these gears back here. It is remarkably quiet. And that little hose is still broken off also. I know you guys are gonna comment about that vent hose, but we'll put a new one on there, no worries. Just not right now. So, all right guys, time to let this thing down. Let's take it for a quick spin real quick, and that's gonna be that. Coming down more. Now, it's very critical to not set this truck down on the ground with the wheels and the transmission in drive. See that? Like, we don't want to do that, because if we do that, it's just gonna like drive away off the rack and wreck through the wall, and that would be super duper bad. Now, in this scenario, you also can't just hop in and throw it in park, right? Because then the parking pole is gonna be like brrrr everywhere. That's also not good. So, in order to shut this down or lower it safely, get on the brakes, stop the rear end, then we can put it in park. What? It's mad at me. There we go. Hup, climbing down. Let's get this off the rack and we'll back her out. I need my lift back, big time. Hood coming down. Beautiful. Okay, lift arms on this side, get those out of the way. I've just torqued down all the wheels, so that's in good shape. Squeeze in here. It's got an ABS light on. Don't know what that's about yet. I don't remember if that was on when we started or not. We'll see, I'll figure it out. There's always bugs to work out when it comes to things. But what I know is it's not that tone ring on the back. It better not be, because I'm not taking this apart again. Safety. Hey, we haven't really had an opportunity to drive this truck. Been here like 2 months and hasn't gone anywhere. Because now it moves, runs and drives and backs up, and the axle's good. I'm very, very pleased with the accomplishment on this particular vehicle. Let's not wreck into the muscle cars back here, that would suck. Those gotta come inside. Hey guys, check this out. It's like the Jeep of all Jeeps over here. Look at that thing. It's like a super Jeep. It has all the Jeep bolt-ons, including the ducts. All right, still screwing around. We're not gonna go far, just far enough so I know that that rear end's not screaming at me. And then we're headed back in and parking this unit, moving on to the next project. So guys, having said all that, as always, I'd like to thank you for watching this video. Let me know what you think about this truck, this project, and this particular repair in the comment section down below. Do not forget to engage that like and subscribe button while you're down there. And most importantly, have yourselves a fantastic day. See you guys later. Rear end is quiet. This concludes my test drive. I'm flipping it around, headed back to the shop. It is closing time. We're going home. See you guys later. In a video, in a day, in a transmission. All speed, no noise. Fan flippin' tastic. All right, so here's how we flip this around. Checking left, checking right. Let's rock and roll. Stay in your lane.